Hey everybody, happy Friday. I hope you're all geared up for the weekend. We're talking gun control and all the big hot button issues today. I'll see you on the other side.
I plead the first American dream. I plead the first white shirt, blue jeans. I plead the first American dream.
All right, everybody, like I said in the intro, we're talking gun control and a couple other hot button issues if I get time to get to them. But, you know, if I seem a little down, it's just like I don't know where to go on this topic because I think everything that can be said has been said, and I just did a live stream on the Facebook page and I said just as much. I don't know what to say to these people. And when I say these people, I mean people that support gun control. They aren't doing so out of logic, man. There's no logic behind the legislation that they're coming up with or suggesting. And I know a few of my friends out there are pro gun control. A couple of them are even prior military, retired military, and I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't wrap my head around their thoughts. I would love to understand where they're coming from, but there's nothing that supports their argument except emotions. Their emotions are drawing them to, we have to do something about this. Well, what are we going to do? You can't, murder's already illegal, guys. Murder is already illegal. That's not stopping murder. So why do you think making something illegal never stops it? Can you give me an example? One example. Anywhere where we've made something illegal and that activity ceased? Now think about that for a second and then think about this. Can you name a couple of activities that we've made illegal that made it worse? I can name two right off the top of my head. Prohibition of alcohol made it 10 times worse. It drove it underground. Then there were speakeasies. It fed the mafia and organized crime and ballooned them up to unbelievable riches and wealth, which I think they might have achieved on their own anyway, but we just made it easy with moonshining and bootlegging. And then the prohibition of marijuana, which I know I'm conservative, and I know there's a lot of conservatives on my Facebook page and on my channel, and some of you may be just absolutely opposed to the legalization of marijuana, but I would ask you during this show to just challenge your thoughts a little bit. What good is that doing? Does it stop anybody from smoking weed? No, it doesn't. All we have is a multi-billion-dollar war against drugs that is costing taxpayer dollars, lives. It's making things illegal that don't need to be illegal, which creates an entire underground it's not necessary. When you legalize it, all of a sudden that underground, why would I go buy it from some shady guy on a corner when I could just go to the gas station and buy a pack of weed? Like that's where I want it to be. I would love it if I could just go down to the gas station and buy a pack of marijuana cigarettes, because it's going to take away most of the nostalgia is the wrong word. It's just going to take most of the wonder that people have about marijuana away. Like, people look at today, like most people don't find smoking cigarettes attractive in any way, shape, or form, even smokers. I smoke. I'm not a heavy smoker. I usually only smoke when I'm drinking, and you guys have probably seen me on the stream. If you see me smoking on the stream, I'm drinking. It's an unattractive habit. It's gross. It smells bad. Same thing with marijuana. It smells bad. I think marijuana is probably I guarantee you it has more medical benefits than tobacco. But anyway, off on a tangent there, I brought those up because when we made those illegal, it just drove it underground and caused all kinds of problems. Now, can you imagine doing that with something as potentially dangerous as firearms, and making that where people are not going to stop getting firearms. You're just going to make people that are firearms enthusiasts, firearms owners, people that want guns to protect themselves, you're just going to make those people criminals. That's all you're going to do. And they don't care. They're not going to stop. We haven't stopped anybody from smoking weed. Further back, we didn't stop anybody that was a drinker from drinking during Prohibition. We just made it worse. And that is what we are going to do by pushing these ridiculous legislations. As you can see on the screen, I'm going to cover HR 127. I am on congress.gov, and this is a summary of the bill. This is where I go to get my information on a bill because it's a .gov site. I choose not to go to news sites and stuff like that. It's just not where I go. I want to go directly to the source. I want to read what they're saying about it. The bill establishes a process for licensing and registration of firearms. It also prohibits the possession of certain ammunition and large capacity ammunition feeding devices. So let's just break that first sentence down really quickly. There is a whole lot of ambiguity to the words large capacity and certain ammunition. What are those? I need to know exactly what they are. And who gets to determine what is a large capacity ammunition feeding device? Geez, I can't talk today. And does a large capacity magazine is what they're talking about? Does large capacity magazines make a weapon more deadly? No, especially not in the hands of a well-trained or well-practiced shooter. I can change magazines extremely fast, and probably not as fast as I used to be, but faster than you can do anything about it. So what are you going to make them? 10-round magazines? My Glock 30S has 10-round magazines. I can swap those out all day long. So now I carry around, 10 magazines? Now I have 100 rounds. Takes me less than 2 seconds to change a magazine, far less than 2 seconds. I would have to clock myself to see how fast I could do a reload, and then you have something that's called a tactical reload, where you reload before you're out of bullets. Sorry, I'm kind of stumbling over my words because I want to make sure that I'm using common language. I don't want to fall into using military words and military jargon. So I'm kind of trying to slow myself down and use words that are common to everybody and that everybody will understand. When you do a tactical reload, you're counting your rounds. So I know if I'm firing my Glock 30S, I'm going to try to keep a round count in my head. And what I'm going to try to do is when I get to round 9, I'm going to drop my magazine and put another one in. That way I never have a gun that doesn't have a bullet in the chamber. So, I may lose track of my rounds. And when I lose track, guess what? I'm dropping that magazine and loading another one. And that is literally buttons, boom, done. It's not a large capacity magazine. If I was a mass murderer, if I was a terrible person, if I was a piece of crap, I could go into any number of public places with my Glock 30S and wreak havoc, absolute havoc and destruction. You think some of these, I'm not trying to be arrogant. You think some of these mass shootings are bad? When they get 10 people, 11 people, brother, if I go in there with my stuff, armed with my training and experience, I've been shooting all my life. If I ever fell off that wagon, which I will never, because it's just not me, the body count's going to be much higher. And I am not dependent on a large magazine. In fact, I probably would use my Glock 30S, to be completely honest with you, because if you're not familiar with firearms, it's a small pistol. It's a compact, designed for concealed carry. It's a 45 double stack, 10 rounds in the magazine. You can put one in the chamber, so that's 11. So 10 plus 1, 45. You now load that with some nasty rounds, right? Mushroom tipping, hollow points, whatever you want to call them. You're going to do some serious damage to whoever you want to inflict that damage upon. And there's nothing in this bill that's going to make anything about my Glock 30S illegal. No, they're after my ARs. They're after a pistol that I might put a 15 or a 20 round magazine on because I like to shoot at the range super fast, or play games with there's target games and stuff like that at the range that people do. And they're going to target that kind of gun. That's not what I'm going to use. So this serves nothing. This serves no purpose at all whatsoever. And they've given us no real definition. So what's a large capacity magazine now? Are you going to say it's 10 rounds, 5 rounds, 2 rounds? Are we going back to muskets? And I'm sorry, guys. We live in a world today where technology is more available to us than ever. You can get CNC machines. You can get all kinds of machines the technology's there, guys. You're never going to erase firearm technology, no matter how illegal you make it. Even if you went through and successfully took away every gun in America, if you successfully confiscated every gun in America and made it confiscated it by the government, took it away from any private citizen, guess what? We're just going to make more. Some dude out here in Nebraska in a machine shop, there's a machine shop 2 miles from my house, and it's in a big metal building out in the middle of nowhere on a gravel road. Guess what? You make guns illegal, that dude's making guns tomorrow probably. I don't know him. I'm just saying. He'd probably be my first stop. Like, hey man, can you make one of these thingies for me? We'll call it a thingy, right? You don't need to know what it is. You get him to make enough parts, guess what? You can put a gun together. And I'm not going to rat anybody out, but one of my buddies, he works in a metal shop, and he's a good friend of mine. They made a shotgun the other day in the metal shop, in 10 minutes. Just screwing around. It's not hard. You cannot take that technology away. And then all the people that are out there that are going to reply to this or respond to this and say, but if you make it illegal, then at least they're criminals. You're illegal for killing somebody. What has that helped? You're not going to stop evil. The only way you can stop evil is by force. So I don't want to get too fired up yet because I got more to cover here. First, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which our beloved president couldn't even get that right the other day when he announced this. He called them the AFT. And explosives, can't forget the E. Must establish, 1, a licensing system for the possession of firearms or ammunition, and a registration system for firearms. So they're going to license you as a gun owner, and then they're going to register your firearm. The problem with this, and Thunderduck has already pointed this out, and so I don't want to steal his thunder, so to speak. I'm not going to beat on this too much, but he has a point we're going to get more into it, and it just keeps proving his point. But when you start requiring this stuff, guess what? The license is going to cost. So now I got to go pay for a license. You know why more people don't have a concealed carry license? Because it's not cheap. You got to go get the training, you got to go get the license, you got to go get signed off, all that stuff. It takes time and effort and money. This is the government's attempt in pricing you out of exercising your Second Amendment rights. Let's move on to the next sentence. That one's pretty straightforward. All the bogus crap in that sentence is, we don't really need to tear it down. I mean, it's obvious you guys are smart. In addition, the Department of Justice must establish and maintain a publicly available database of all registered firearms. Why would that database be publicly available. What in the world would that matter? I'll tell you why. Because some of their woke left corporations are going to, when you apply for a job there, they're going to pull you up in that firearm database and they're going to say, you're a firearms owner? I'm sorry, we don't hire firearms owners. That's another way to basically make it impossible and I'll leave it there. It's just going to be impossible to own a firearm if this kind of legislation passes, because we already see this stuff. We see this with Amazon. Me and Thunderduck were talking about this the other day. Amazon says, I don't want to publish a book. Then guess what? That book doesn't get published because the publisher, whoever decides to try to publish that book, isn't going to make any money if they can't sell it on damn Amazon. So it's the same way here. It's just reverse. The corporation out there that's woke and left, Johnny goes and tries to get hired at whatever corporation. I'm not going to attack any specific corporation and say that they would do this, but I know a couple that I think would. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm gonna go out and say it. I think Disney would be one to do this. So now you get somebody wants to go get a job at Disney. They're gonna pull you up in the firearms database, and they're gonna say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't hire firearms owners. It's just to curtail potential workplace violence." And that's somehow gonna be a legal form of discrimination. Because these people hate the fact that you own guns. They hate the fact that they have no way of stopping you from owning guns because shall not be infringed is put in. And Thunderduck really covered it really well in his video. So go watch that if you haven't. In addition, the Department of... sorry, I lost my place. In addition, the Department of Justice must establish and maintain a public... Okay, we already got that. The publicly available database, that's crazy, man. And then next, the bill creates licensing requirements for the possession of firearms and ammunition. So they're going to require you to have a license to own firearms and ammunition, which is absolutely insane. DOJ shall issue such a license to individuals that are at least 21 years of age, undergoes a criminal background check that you pay for, by the way, which is the way it already is. I don't know why this is legislation. You already go get a background check when you buy a gun at a gun store. A psychological evaluation. Guess who's going to pay for that? You are. So now you're going to go to a psychological evaluation. You're going to go talk to some psychologist. The psychologists are going to be bombarded with these appointments, and you have to do an intake to go see a psychologist. I know because I see a psychologist. So they're going to give you a big handout. It's like an hour's worth of paperwork. If you're not a fast handwriter like I am, you got to fill all this out, tell them your life story, tell them everything about you. How many people do you think that are going to go do this are going to tell the truth in their stupid psychological evaluation? People that go seek help from a psychologist barely tell the truth to their psychologist until they get to know their psychologist. So this is absolute trash and garbage. So I'll tell you, I'll be completely honest with you guys. My psychologist watches these videos sometimes, and she would tell you that I was not honest with her for months and months and months, almost a year, before I brought up real issues that I needed help with. Because frankly, I just needed to know that I could trust her, and that doesn't come overnight. And you got to build a rapport with that person. You have to like that person. You have to know that they have your best interest at heart. But now, if you need a psychological evaluation for a firearm, what you're going to go do is you're going to go look up a psychologist on the internet, on Google. You're going to type in psychologist in Omaha or wherever you are, and you're going to pull up a couple hundred people, probably not even probably. I would doubt it's a couple hundred. It's probably more like 50 in a small city like Omaha. And now you're going to call every one of them. I'd like to get in to get my gun psychological evaluation. And they're going to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, we're backed up on those until November of next year. So now you can't get a gun. See where this is going? And then the psychological evaluation itself serves no purpose because we already said that. We're not going to be honest to those people. And on top of that, you're probably, if you are somebody that needs help, if you are somebody that's experiencing some sort of mental illness, you're not going to go seek help for that mental illness because you're afraid whatever psychologist you go to is going to mark you in some system as not eligible to own a firearm. So now we have a bunch of people in America running around with untreated mental illnesses that refuse to go get help because they want to hold on to their Second Amendment rights, which should not ever be infringed anyway. And now they're just going to not seek help. Does that sound good to you? Liberals? I mean, I'm serious. Any of you guys that are out there on the page, the Cancel Culture Sucks page, the I Plead the First Facebook page, people that are subscribers to this website, the YouTube page, if you're liberals that watch my show, answer, please. Put it down in the comments. I want to know, how does that make sense? How in the world does that make sense? How does this psychological evaluation do anything but hurt mental health? I'll wait. Complete a certified training program. Out of everything, out of all the requirements in this entire bill, this is the one I have the least problem with. But it's also going to cost. It's going to incur a cost, and it's probably going to be an exorbitant cost. Because whoever is going to be certified to sign you off on this training, well, guess what? They have to have access to a firing range. They have to have a license that they pay for. They have to have received their blessing. They have to have an LLC. They have to have insurance. They have to basically set up a business, right? And it costs money to run a business. So now your training is going to cost money. If you're a concealed carry guy, you already know it costs money to get your concealed carry license, unless you're like me and can pull up your military training and say, see, I already got training, I'm good. And then some states don't accept that. But if you've had to go pay for your training to get your concealed carry, it's somewhere, some places it's all the way up to $200 or more to get your concealed carry training, where they teach you use of force and appropriate force and all that kind of stuff. And it's not complicated, guys. It's really not. Honestly, I'm not a computer-based training guy, but you could make a damn YouTube channel. You could make a YouTube show about training somebody how to judge proper use of force and all that kind of stuff. It's not rocket science. It's really not. Anyway, and then you have to have an insurance policy too. Insurance isn't cheap. And I seriously doubt that a gun policy right now isn't super expensive, but it's not the cheapest thing in the world. I would bet that if this becomes law, that those gun policies will go through the roof. So making Thunder Duck's point, they're trying to price you out of your Second Amendment rights. It also outlines the circumstances under which the DOJ must deny a license. The individual was hospitalized with a mental illness. So just because you were hospitalized with a mental illness means you can never own again. What happens if you get treated and you're fine? What happens if you had an anxiety, a panic attack? I've had a panic attack before. Went to the ER. Does that mean I was hospitalized with a mental illness and that I can't own a firearm? Come take mine. I dare you. It also establishes additional requirements for an antique firearm display license and military-style weapons license. So that's your ARs. And then the antique one is going to be all your old school like M1s and stuff like that. So whoever wrote this was not ignorant. They're doing this on purpose. They're targeting certain weapons. The bill generally prohibits and penalizes the possession of firearms or ammunition unless the individual complies with licensing and registration requirements. Further, it prohibits the transfer of firearms or ammunition to an unlicensed person. So this is what the liberals will try to call closing the gun show loophole is what they call it. Stupid. It doesn't do anything. I can guarantee you, when I sell a firearm, Usually it's to a very close friend or family member. And if it's not, I have a bill of sale. I go to the sheriff or wherever is appropriate in your location, and I get that weapon removed from my name. I get my name removed from it. I get the other person's name added to it. It's just the smart thing to do, because I don't want somebody coming and knocking on my door and being like, hey, your Glock 30S was involved in a murder. No, it wasn't. Anyway, 50 caliber or greater. I talked about this. This bill came up, I think it was my 4th video, when Sheila Jackson proposed this bill. It's overall a disaster. Nothing has changed since that 4th video. I would recommend going back and watching that 4th video, because I really broke some stuff down in that video. This is as advertised from way back in, it must have been February when I made that video. Really nothing has changed here. And that video has some more cool graphics and stuff like that. I spent some time editing that, and I'm not planning on doing a lot of that here. This is just more of a discussion and looking at what Congress.gov says about this. And nothing's changed. Nothing for me in here is needed. At the time of recording that last video about gun control, said that I would stay away from my own personal views on my extreme views on gun control. Here's my extreme views. I want to repeal a whole bunch of gun control laws, not make any more. There should be no stupid waiting list or licensing for a silencer, also properly known as a suppressor. It does not make your weapon more deadly. It does not make you a Superman or a CIA hitman. It does not make you a better shot. It does not make the bullet more deadly. And it doesn't make you harder to catch. And I just stumbled over my words. What I was trying to say is a silencer does not make your gun silent in any way, shape, or form. Anybody that's shot a weapon with a suppressor knows that thing's still loud, man. The only thing it really kind of does is make it where you might not have to wear headphones, which is nice. It might make it a little bit harder at distance. So if I'm shooting a rifle at 600 yards, that's pretty damn hard to find a suppressed weapon where that's firing from. But guess what? If they fire twice, they fire 3 times, I pretty much know where it's at. So, and anyway, the people that would be doing that kind of particular brand of murdering, if they were out there with a high-powered rifle 600 yards away and had a suppressor, they already have them. They're already doing that kind of stuff. And you don't ever hear about it anyway. You know why? Because there's 364 murders in the year of 2019, which is the last year that we have records for. 364 murders committed with a rifle. So why does that need any kind of legislation? 364 deaths. Can you imagine trying to push legislation for anything in the world with 364 deaths being the reason? We live in a country of 350 million people. 324 deaths is something like 0.00001%. 4 zeros. That, I'm not being cold to those people that died. I'm not. Every life matters. Every single life matters. But murder's already illegal. We got it covered. Somebody commits a murder, charge them with murder. What actual good does it do to tack on these charges? Are you going to stop murder? Does anybody really believe that this is going to stop murder? Or bring our rifle murder rate down from 364? I covered this in a video that I called Remedial Training. I covered a lot of these stats. Clubs and hammers are used in more murders than rifles. Hands and feet and just your body, your elbows and knees are used in more murders than rifles. So what actual purpose can you give me for this ridiculous legislation? It's disgusting. If you're not pissed off by this, if you're not upset by this, I don't care if you're a gun owner or not. You should be absolutely appalled that someone has suggested this ridiculous piece of legislation. And here I just noticed the date. So my video would have to be, no, it's definitely, my video's in February. Because I didn't even start YouTube until late January. But that's it, man. That's all I have on the gun control thing. It's really gross. You can really dig into this if you wish. I mean, you should be calling your congressperson and telling them, hey, if you vote for this, you're done. I will make sure that I spend every waking moment getting you getting whoever runs against you elected. I really don't have much else to say about HR 127 or gun control or any of it, because to me it's just common sense. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you're for this, I'm sorry, man. I kind of think you're stupid. I know that's mean. I know I've made attempts to say, hey, I'm going to not otherize. I'm going to not call names. I'm going to not, do the libtard thing and all that. I get it. And I mean that. I really, truly do. But if you're with this, you're just dumb. You're fucking dumb. There is nothing about this that is going to work. So what are you actually trying to accomplish other than to make yourself feel better? This is another... Democrats in general take actions on their emotions, and they gotta stop. You can't legislate. You cannot legislate. You cannot govern on emotions. You can make yourself feel great with this legislation, but I'm going to tell you what, the only thing it's going to do is make things worse. I wouldn't be surprised if murder rates with rifles went up. Because, you know why? All of a sudden it's going to become illegal unless I go out and jump through all of their hoops. And then even if I do jump through all their hoops, there's a fairly decent possibility that someone like me could get marked as not able to own a rifle because I have mental health issues or whatever that I've been pretty open about. And I think you should be open about them, frankly, because we all have mental health issues. And I'm one of the few people that actually goes and does what I'm supposed to do. But because I've done what I'm supposed to do, now I'm going to be punished. And my Second Amendment right is going to be taken away. So now what? Now what do I got to do? I got to turn my guns into the cops? Not happening. I give them away first. And in my case, I would give them to my family. But somebody out there somewhere is going to get pissed off that their Second Amendment rights is being stripped away for their mental health issues or whatever the case may be. They're going to get pissed off and they're going to go give that gun away. They're going to just get pissed off and go give it away to some guy on the street. I guarantee you. I know people like that. I know people that are very, very, very spiteful people. And they would probably drive downtown and just hand it to the next gangbanger that they see. And then they would go and they would file a report and say, yeah, my guns were stolen. What are you going to do about it? Now you got a gun in the hand of a gangbanger. I don't know. Maybe I went off on a tangent here. It is what it is. It's how I feel about it, man. So, there's somebody out there that would do that. That's a fact. It's 300. There's 350 million people out there. That's not the right thing to do. It's not the responsible thing to do. But I guarantee you, there is someone out there that would take that action, that would be so pissed off by this, they'd go hand their guns over to a gangbanger, go home, break a window, and say, hey, my guns were stolen. Then what? He's not liable for anything that happens with the guns anymore. Cops aren't going to figure it out, because you know what happens when something gets stolen? I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that. Don't take this as cop bashing. It's not, but they're just busy. Like, call a cop sometime and tell them you got some stuff stolen. They're going to take a report. They may look at the crime scene if it's still around, but if you're just like, yeah, they broke that window, I cleaned it up, sorry. They're going to be like, oh, shouldn't have done that. And they're going to take a report, and they're going to walk away, and you're never going to hear from them ever again. That's what's going to happen. Because they got other stuff to deal with, like writing speeding tickets. Don't get me started on that. They won't pull a guy over in the left lane that's going 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, but they're out there with 4 cop cars creating a speeding trap for going 5 over. And they can't find stolen property to save their lives. Anyway, I'm all fired up. Maybe this is Fired Up Friday. It's just agitating, annoying. I have a lot of issues with the stuff that's going on in this country. And if we keep going down this path, guys, I'm moving to the hills of southern Missouri, and you will never hear from me again. And you'll never find me again. And no one will ever take my guns, because you won't even know where the hell I'm at. Just the facts, man. I did want to mention a couple other things real quick that are going on. Well, at least one more thing. What do I got on time here? Yeah, 36 minutes. So just to kind of close the loop on the gun control thing, I know everybody's fired up about it, guys. You got to do the right thing and call your representatives. Let them know. My representative for a couple more months is going to be Vicky Hartzler in Missouri, and she already knows, but I'll still email her and let her know, hey, you better be bulldogging this, and she already is. But do that. Do that with your representative. Close out the episode with this. Today we got some bad news. In my opinion, some very bad news. DMX, the rapper, he passed away today from a heart attack. Seems like he had OD'd on drugs last week and had a heart attack. He's a 50-year-old man. It's not completely out of the question that he just had a heart attack, but he was generally in most of his life in good shape. So it sounds likely that he had addiction problems, which we knew about that. I mean, these musicians of any kind, rock stars, country music singers, it really doesn't matter. If you guys think your country music singers are clean, they're not. Sorry. People that live out on that lifestyle, live out on the road, they're doing drugs. A lot of them are. Not all of them. They're out, they're doing the drugs, they're doing the drinking, they're doing all that stuff just to like self-medicate, honestly. And it's really sad because some of them fall into real addiction, and seems like maybe that was a problem for DMX. And he, as a result, had an overdose and had a heart attack last week. He's been in the hospital for a week and passed away today. DMX, not a perfect person, obviously. If you've listened to his music and some of his thoughts on things, I mean, they're from a person that's been through a lot in his life. He talks about some things that are not good, just like I do. But that's not the DMX I choose to remember. He was a flawed human being. He was a flawed man, but he was, from everything I can tell, a pretty good husband and a really good dad. I was just watching a video of him before I started the stream of him riding the slingshot with his daughter, and it was just like a really touching moment, you know. And one of the like toughest dudes you'll ever meet, you know. I didn't meet him personally, but just I watched a lot of his interviews and stuff like that, and just he is the way he is all the time. It's not an act, is what I get from him, and that's what I've heard from people that have met him. It's not an act, dude. That's just DMX all the time, right? So rest in peace, DMX. I choose to remember him for those good things he did. And he did have a relationship with God. And I know there are some Christians out there that are kind of hardline on this kind of stuff, and they choose to say, oh, well, he made explicit music, so he's not a good Christian, or he did this or that, or he did drugs, so he's not a good Christian. To those people, I would say shut up, because you're wrong and you're a hypocrite. He did have a relationship with God, and if you ever want to know how deep his relationship with God is, just go listen to his prayers, because there's, I believe, about 7 of them that he put on different albums and did at different shows and stuff like that. And they're genuine prayers, and you can tell they're from his perspective. And they came from a person that had a legitimate relationship with God. And it was an imperfect relationship, just like he was an imperfect man. Some of the things he says in his prayers are a little skewed, but they were from his perspective, man. And personally, I loved every single one of those prayers that he put out there in his different albums and everything like that. Like, they spoke to me a lot, a couple of them more than others. I posted one today, and if you guys liked the prayer that I posted today, you liked a prayer by DMX, a gangster rapper. So just so you know, don't judge a book by its cover. And that dude, I think, is probably, that phrase fits that person more than anybody I can think of right off the top of my head, because he was clearly thinking about his relationship with God a lot. And I don't think it was just something that he did to put on an act for his album, because that's just not DMX. It's just not the person he was. I feel like if he didn't have that belief, he's like, to me, a semi-extreme person. So if he didn't believe in God, he would almost be out cursing God and be rallying against God. So I really truly believe he had that belief, and I choose to remember him for him ministering to people. And something that we have to realize too, I don't want to make this a sermon, man. But if you are religious, especially if you're a Christian, and you have a tendency to kind of shy away from that kind of person, shame on you. Because I'll tell you what, DMX probably, no, there's hands down, if you're watching my show, DMX ministered to more people than you will ever minister to. So think about that in your head for a minute, that while you're judging him and saying, oh, he's not a person that we should praise, or he's not a Christian, that we shouldn't praise his Christianity because it wasn't this or it wasn't that. No, he ministered to far more people than you will ever reach in your whole life, even if you're a preacher. Let that sink in for a moment. So those are the things I choose to remember DMX for. He wasn't the best lyricist in the business by any means. He didn't have, even to me, didn't have like any of the top best albums or anything like that. But he was always like just a really good listen. Like, I could pop in a DMX album, I could listen to most of it. There might be a couple songs on there and I'm like, not feeling it. But most of DMX's albums, man, they were good. They told a story. And ultimately, guys, for those of you that aren't into rap, most of these albums, especially from that era, they're stories, man. Biggie Smalls and all that. All those guys, they're telling a story. It's urban opera, if you will. I appreciate it for what it is. It's art. And he will be missed, but certainly by his family. So thoughts and prayers go out to them. And I think with that, I'm going to call it a day, man. I'm going to go through. I got a couple spots in this video. I actually have to do some editing, which, boo, it's Friday night. I'm trying to get out to the adult beverage establishments soon. Let's close this out with a safety briefing. So, guys, be safe. Do not drink and drive. Do not take anyone out of the population, and do not add anyone to the population. be safe out there. Take care of each other. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you again on Monday. I got no kids this weekend, so who knows? Might be a couple bonus videos coming out. We'll see what happens. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Everybody smoking all the greenery. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could